So the way we're going to proceed with this panel is I've asked each of the panelists to spend about 5 minutes first introducing themselves and where they fit in their family business, but then primarily focusing on how have they taken their family values and integrated or transferred those into values for the corporation. As Rob said, both spreading those values into the corporation as a whole and also making sure that the family is united and aligned around this common set of values. So I thought I'm going to ask each of the panelists to spend about 5 minutes on that, and then we'll open it up for an interactive discussion among the panelists up here, and then we'll open it to the conversation in the group. So I guess starting from one side to the other, why don't we start with Kevin Honkamp? If Kevin, you could
I thought we could maybe
yourself.
rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first.
You win.
I win. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Honkamp. I'm with Hydrite Chemical. I am part of third generation. I am an owner. I am a family member, and I am also a manager within the business. So I hit all three aspects of that stool. Hydrite was founded in 1929 by my grandfather, and currently today I'm the executive vice president of Hydrite. We have 7 businesses within Hydrite, 7 different P&Ls that lead up to the Hydrite P&L. I have direct responsibility or indirect responsibility of 5 of those businesses. Interestingly enough, though, I am going to point out someone else in the audience because I have a brother who's here today. Quite frankly, I didn't know he was going to be here, but Andy, if you just want to raise your hand. My brother Andy is also in the business, and he is part of third generation manager, owner, family member as well. Hydrite was founded in 1929 by my grandfather. Just a quick little snippet. I know I only have a few minutes here. But the name Hydrite, I think it's a great little story. Back in 1929, 1930s, Milwaukee had a lot of tanneries in the city. Obviously today that's not the case. But when my grandfather got started in the chemical business, he really wanted to serve the tanning industry. And so his little marketing tagline was, if you use our products correctly, it will tan your hides right. Put that together, and that's where Hydrite Chemical came from. Today, my father is the current chairman and CEO. We have an uncle who is the president and COO of the business. And in the third generation, there are about 15 of us, and we have 4.5 people in the business. One person's part-time.
Great. And could you just share briefly how your family, in a very practical way and kind of a best practice way, has taken your family values and also integrated those into the business especially through your leadership program that you've developed?
Absolutely. So even though we've been around since 1929, it took us a while to get organized in terms of developing a code of ethics, and that's what we call it. Whether it's a mission statement, code of values, we actually call it a code of ethics, and we did that in 1996. And the prior panel, Nan, I believe it was you said, and it's our very first code, is we believe and understand what is good for the company is good for the family as a whole. And I think that really resonates for us at Hydrite. I think a lot of businesses, family businesses, can get off track when they start serving the family more than the business, more than the customers, more than the employees. And it's our very first principle in terms of how we lead our business and manage our business today. And in fact, Andy, you should have this in your wallet, even though it might be 19 years old. And then a way we actually take those principles and then populate it and assimilate it into the organization is, for the last number of years, we've worked with UWM, the Lubar School of Business, and it's called the Hydrite Leadership Challenge, where we've gone through the process of identifying in groups of 30 our 60 top leaders in the company, future leaders in the company, through a succession planning process. And we actually have a 4-day course where we talk about a number of these topics, everything from ethics, everything from servant leadership, everything from leading high-performing teams and things like that. And I think through that process, not only are you engaging and passing on the culture to the employees, but by you being there and talking about stories within Hydrite, I think it really mixes pretty well the code of ethics that we created almost 20 years ago, and then obviously translating that to the employees and leaders, future leaders of the company.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Amy, could you introduce yourself and also share some of the ways your family has taken the values that have been so central to your family and then integrated those into your corporate culture?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Amy Jablonka Nelson, and I am third generation in ownership with my brother and my sister of Glenroy Incorporated. The business was founded 50 years ago next month, so we're happy to celebrate that this year. And our grandparents and our dad founded it. It's a manufacturing company. We manufacture flexible packaging material, that everything from roll stock all the way to stand-up pouches that are flexible. So if I went to the store with you and if I was fully knowledgeable about all the projects that we work on, I could say we do that and that and that and that and that and that and that, all kinds of things from lidding stock for pharmaceuticals to stand-up pouches and things like that for food. That's the main bread and butter of our business. We also have a smaller product line, Everwhite whiteboards and visual display products that we're also proud to work with and own. So in our...
By the way, a plug for Amy, their whiteboards are the most amazing whiteboards I've ever seen.
Thank
and
you,
I have
Dean.
them everywhere.
Dean's a big fan. So in terms of incorporating our values within our business, I wanted to say that for those of you who are at different stages of your businesses, it's probably important to make note that the founders of the company weren't really necessarily thinking about the values of the business or to make them explicit on a piece of paper for everyone when they were building the business. So my grandparents and my dad just were trying to build a business and make a living. And so it became really out of a question in working with Dean, who was our consultant for 10 years, who asked us, what's your company culture and could you all describe it? And when we all had slightly different answers that all describe the culture. I mean, how do you, succinctly talk about your business's culture when it so uniquely reflects you, your family, your industry? It's kind of a hard thing to do. And he kindly looked at us and said, if you can't articulate it very clearly for your employees and your company and the community and your customers, then it's going to be really hard for you to perpetuate it if what you want is generational ownership. Well, aha. So we set to the task of defining that, and it took a long time, and it was definitely a process, but like maybe some of you who have embarked on a process, the jewels and the gems that you obtain from going through the process are actually some of the most important. And so my brother and a team of employees, which included our president and CEO, our CFO, our HR manager, and a regional manager, and those people were long tenured employees of the company, to basically reverse engineer the values out of the business that were operating in the business, having been taken from mainly our dad, who was Generation 2, who spent the most time of any family member leading the business. And so from that, we came up with 13 values. And then from there, the challenge was, how do we share this with the company? And in really reviewing them for today, here's what I can say. The values really do reflect our family values. They really do reflect what's operating in our business. They are true, and what we really wanted was that this list of values and their descriptions, like their definitions, that they would be used to make decisions for ourselves as well as for our employees, and that our employees would be empowered to also look at that list and be able to make some business decisions. They would know what our wishes were by knowing from this list. And so it was a long process, but in the end, we taught those in presentations to the company. We have monthly all-employee meetings where we go over lots of things about the business and cool projects and things going on. And it was at those meetings that each value was taught, and my brother took that on himself to do that, did an amazing job. He used cowboy ethics. He lives in Denver. He used cowboy ethics and different things to relate them to everyone, and then he told specific company stories, history about the company, history, things that had happened in the business. Every business has its hard knocks and the things that we learn from those. And so all that wrapped up, and so in a nutshell, it took a long time. It was a 2-year process to just get the values out of the business with different meetings. We took the team took great care in the verbiage and wanting it to be meaningful and really true, and not just something that went up on a wall. And then it was a 2-year process to present each of them to the company, wanting each presentation to be very high quality, but as well, my brother's schedule living in Denver, and then the needs of the business as well. Things sort of fluctuated, and so it wasn't like consecutive months where we were doing that. So we kind of had the posture of, it's going to take the amount of time it takes, and we just wanted it to be very true and authentic and sincere. So that's how we
Amy, could you just share briefly what some of those 13 values are?
Sure, I can read them. They're not in any specific order, but if we were to put one at the top, it would be employ good people is the one. Continuous improvement, service, being of service, and servant leadership, which I heard from others already this morning. Drive out fear is another one. We don't want fear in the organization. Quality and product, things that we make. Lowest cost of use related to product. Excellence, long-term health of the business, long-term health decisions is one that comes up a lot in our business. And generational ownership, wanting our business to be of benefit and of service for not just our family's generations, but the generations of families working in our business. We have a lot of family. In fact, our CEO and president has more family working in the business than we do. So I think it's kind of ironic, but it's actually true. And we have other families who have multi-generational members of their families working in our business. So we consider that a privilege that we're so complimented to have them. So that's another one. Servant leadership, specifically safety, integrity, and trust. So we ended up with 13.
Thank you. And Rick, if you could introduce yourself, the company, and also how your family has really integrated these family values into your corporate culture and process.
Sure, and thank you for having me. My name is Rick Schmidt. I'm the president and CEO of a construction management firm called C.G. Schmidt. We have offices here in Milwaukee and in Madison. C.G. Schmidt was founded in 1920 by my great-grandfather, so I represent the fourth generation of family leadership. I have two sons that are civil engineers that both worked outside the family company for 2 years and now have joined the firm, so they represent the fifth generation. I'm one of 10 siblings. We're Roman Catholic, and I have 3 brothers who are all in the family business, and I have 6 sisters, none of which are employed by the company right now. So the company is wholly owned by myself and my 3 brothers. We all own differing percentages of the company. We also have non-family executive leadership in our firm. In fact, most of our executive leadership consists of non-family members. And we have an outside board of directors, a governing board that is also very useful for us to run the company. And because we're a construction management firm, we're built for that kind of business. So a construction manager, works with the owner and the architect very early in the process to add value to the project, to make sure that the owner's money is spent where it needs to be spent. So we've built our culture and our values kind of around the business that we have. So through a strategic planning process, we came up with our current mission, which has been around now for probably 15 or 20 years, and that's to create exceptional facilities that improve the lives of others. Okay, and we came up with 6 values. Those values include integrity, excellence, no surprises, innovation, accountability, and our core value of caring. And it's really that core value of caring that we really have tried to instill throughout our company and make sure that our employees understand that they're really, if they're an employee of ours, they're part of the Schmidt family, whether they're related by blood, or not. And we expect them to care for our clients the same way that the management of the company cares for them. So we really spend a lot of time on kind of touchy-feely kind of cultural things to make sure, because the theory is if we treat our clients well, or our employees well, they'll do the same for our clients. And if our employees are disgruntled, they're not going to do a very good job, with our clients. And because we're basically hired on a cost plus fee basis, our reputation means everything to us. We don't get work if we don't do a good job with our clients. Milwaukee's too small of a town to screw up and not have everybody know about it. So it's very important to us that we maintain good relationships with our clients, and therefore we try to really instill our family values, throughout our organization. So the way we do that, and I'm not sure these are best practices, but there's a lot of things that we do. So if you're an employee at C.G. Schmidt and you have a birthday, you get a birthday card, and it's signed by all of the officers, and we encourage them to put little notes of congratulation and little things within those birthday cards. So you get a birthday card. If you have a baby, you get an embroidered blanket that says, "Welcome to the C.G. Schmidt family," and your baby is given that. If you're hospitalized or your spouse or one of your children has a health issue and is hospitalized, you'll get a card and either flowers or a donation to a not-for-profit, in your name. Just to say that we care, that we're thinking about you, and that you're important to the company. We have a Christmas party. We have an annual summer picnic. We have an annual safety banquet, and at these events we invite spouses and generally families. At least to the company picnic we invite families. And one of the things we do is we talk about our values at those very public kind of employee functions. We also invite our retirees and their families and encourage them to come, and we make it a big deal when a retiree comes to one of these functions to let them know that we still consider them part of the family. I think that sends a message to everyone in our organization. 4 times a year, I give a corporate update to all of our employees, and prominent in that discussion is a discussion on our mission and our values and how we're meeting that. We give out excellence awards to our employees. It's driven by their peers, so they're nominated by their peers. If they're selected for the Excellence Award, what it means is that they've done a great job of demonstrating the values of the company in their lives. And so they receive a 1-week vacation at a vacation home that the company owns in northern Wisconsin. We give that to both our field employees and our office employees are all eligible to receive that recognition. And they get a little plaque. Also, we see if we really care about the communities where we work, we need to give back. So we do that in a very public way as well. We do a lot of things as a group, so we encourage our employees to get involved. So we have the company owners, their spouses and children, and all of our employees, spouses and children, are invited to help. At Christmas time, we feed the hungry over at the gathering. We do a bunch of other things. Make a Difference Day. We'll have a big group that'll go out and Make a Difference Day and help clean up people's yards, people that are underserved in the inner city. We get involved with a lot of walks and a lot of other philanthropic kind of items. Last summer at our company picnic, we've had a couple of employees that have had children with significant health problems, and they were helped by Children's Hospital. So our picnic had a theme there that we were going to raise money for Children's Hospital. So at the company picnic, we had some fundraising activities. The company threw in some money, and we ended up, as a result, having a great gathering that we were able to kind of reinforce our values with our employees, and do something good and give a big check to Children's Hospital in appreciation for everything they've done for a couple of our employees' children that had some significant health issues. So I think in a nutshell, I think that's kind of what I wanted to cover.
I think one thing that you can see here is a very uncommon thread of families that have been very intentional about articulating their values, and then not only integrating those family values and articulating, but actually integrating them into the business, not just by having a poster on the wall or by having a nice article, but actually by embodying and living that different ways in their companies and using resources, for example, the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, to help in that process. I was curious then, being this intentional and, as Amy said, focusing years on actually implementing and training people and making this part of your business culture, how has that had an impact on the success of your business in both good times and bad times?
I'll take that one. I think it's been incredibly impactful. I think we at Hydrite, and I think with like a lot of family businesses, we have a saying that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I think that's something that's really important, because I think, like a lot of family businesses, we have a lot of long-term employees, and I'm sure many of you do as well. And I think when employees who stick with you both in the good times and the bad times can look at a card, look at something on the wall, and really see how members and leaders of the business act and react to the business climate. I mean, let's face it, the last couple of years have maybe been rough for some of us. I think that really resonates in the organization. So having something on the wall is really important, but quite frankly, meeting with customers, meeting with employees, getting, in our case, out to the plants, shaking hands, and really being present. I think it's really hard to do a lot of these things remotely. And as companies grow, we have over 800 employees. It gets harder to do that. There was a point in time when we knew probably everybody's first name, their spouse's name, and maybe their kids. It's really, really hard to do that. And so from our perspective, I think the biggest thing is to try to be present and be out there. And I think through that process of good times and bad, those values will really permeate and resonate with the employees and in the organization.
Thanks.
I would add that, I'm sure that for many of our businesses, there's a challenge right now of finding and retaining quality employees. And for us, we went through a very difficult time during the last recession. It had a big impact on the construction industry. We were able to hold on to a lot of good employees. We held on to probably more employees than one would expect under the financial conditions, but we were able to kind of keep our core group, knowing that eventually the economy would turn and work would come back. And I think they appreciate that. They understand that, and they're very appreciative and loyal of that. They tell our new employees about the hard times and how their jobs had been retained because the company cared about them and wanted them to have an opportunity to maintain their employment. And I think that helps us as we recruit new employees as well. I think that they can sense that there's a culture here that they'd be working for a company that cares about them.
And Amy?
Yeah, I would say that I think that few choose this path because it's not an easy one, and it's a process, and it can take time, and sometimes when you're looking at the bottom line, you just want to hurry up and get done. And so here would be my comments. So the question is why? Why would you spend all this time to do that? And here would be what I would say. So to answer your question, Dean, what's the benefit is really, I think, what you're asking. Is that right?
What's the benefit?
What's the benefit?
In the sense of how it's had actual real impact on your business.
So in our business, what we wanted to do was give a piece of equipment to the company and to ourselves. And so that's what we did. It's a tool, and we use it. We use it in terms of how we work with our teams when we're interviewing and hiring people. We use it when we're having a discussion about whether to add a new piece of machinery, which is a big investment for us. We have it because that would hit long-term health. And as Ted pointed out when he was talking, when you're making those kinds, and Nan too, when you're making those kinds of investments, it's a big decision financially, and there are ramifications. And sometimes you make the right decision and sometimes you don't. So, in terms of weighing things, we actually, because the values reflect who we are and what's operating within our business, you tend to live it. And if you need a reminder, you can go back to the list that you've got written. But it's real for us. And our company is healthier because of it. And here's another thing that I would add. We are now having offshoots of these values. So I read the values to you, but we have offshoots now of these values. And one of them are business principles, specific things related to operating the business. And one of them is, for example, in sales, we don't want any one customer to be more than a certain percentage because it would jeopardize our business. And to paint a picture for that for you, think about if one of your customers was 90% of your business and you lost them. Do you have a business? So we want to be real careful about that because we care about long-term health. Long-term health is a value. So I just wanted to kind of connect that for you. We use it.
Thank you. The sponsors of the program, I think, did an amazing job. If you notice so far, this is not a typical family business summit where all we discuss is technical estate planning issues, which are certainly significant, but we're talking about the core of families and the core of values and how that impacts business. And I want to thank both Dick Hensley from American Bank and Rob for keeping that focus on values and culture. So I thought, Rob, do you have some questions for our panelists that you'd like to kick off?
Yeah, actually, I would like to a comment first on, as you listed off your values, Amy, you had one on drive out fear. You know, that's not something you typically see in a set of values. For C.G. Schmidt, Rick, you talked about no surprises, right? You know, and I understand exactly where it's coming from in your business, but it's not typical. So it's obvious the values are organic, right? They're coming from who you are as a business. There's also values that we want to drive in that are a bit aspirational, what we want to become. So even drive out fear is sort of an aspirational. There is fear of different things, and we want to drive it out. How do you balance this idea of there being values that we want to reach for without people saying, oh, that's not us, right? There's an interesting process of saying this is who we are and this is who we want to be, and it has to be authentic, it has to be genuine. How do you balance that in your businesses to be able to stand in front of a group and say, these are our values, and we recognize we're still working on them?
Well, there has to be a process of getting from where you are to where you want to be, right? And what we try to do is recognize those little steps along that way where we see that maybe we're not there yet, but we've made progress. So what we try to do is recognize that progress, and in every one of our employees, if we see that they've fallen down or that the aspirational goal, seems like it's a pretty far distance from where they're at, we try to work with them and recognize what they're doing well and how the incremental steps are going for them to try to get them where they go. But we've had some people in our organization that just couldn't quite buy in, and those people, are no longer with us, and that happens from time to time. But the people that we hire are very clear from the time they're being interviewed what our values are and how important that means to the company. We try to hire people that are a good fit for our culture, that understand and buy into our values. We don't reach that goal all the time, but we try.
Kevin?
Yeah, I would I take that one step further. One of the things that we do to reinforce those values is obviously the hiring process is paramount. We're very methodical in our hiring process where, it's certainly a team of people, from the director of HR to the CEO to myself to other people in the organization. And you can really alleviate a lot of problems by hiring the right people the first time, even though it might take exceedingly longer. And I can't reinforce that enough. And one of the ways we really gauge that and we score that is through our performance management process. So when we actually sit down with reviews for all of our employees, it doesn't matter if you're on the shop floor or you're in the corner office, we actually have our code of ethics and some of our building blocks, and you won't lose your job, but it's certainly a discussion point that if you're not meeting in a general sense some of those values, it could be a potential issue for you down the road. So that's how we try to drill it down to the organization, because again, we can't touch everybody, and we actually have, through our performance management process, those values, and that's how we sort of keep a light scorecard in terms of how people are doing with those values.
Great.
For us, Rob, we built in some of that aspiration within some of the values. So excellence, part of excellence reads, we want to provide excellent service and product, and being of service to our customers and our suppliers, and wanting to have the highest quality product for the lowest possible price, and wanting to have things be fair in the market. So when we wrote them, we kind of built into them a little bit of that aspiration. One of them says that we strive for perfection, but we all know that perfection is hard to achieve, but we try. So yeah, that's how we.
Thank you. And Dick, I wondered if you had some questions for the panelists.
I do. Each of you have articulated very well corporate value and your process of defining those values from the corporate suite down. But when you've had employees through acquisition, employees that you've hired, that for whatever reason have disconnected from the values, what tactics do you take to get them back on track to understand the direction and reinstill those values that you talked about?
Don't do any acquisitions. Acquisitions are complicated, and you bring up a very good point, Dick. And I think you try to hedge your bet in that process a little bit, and we've passed on acquisitions because we knew at the onset, before the deal was done, it wasn't going to be a good fit. And so we'd much rather prefer to grow ourselves organically as opposed to inorganically, because if there's one thing that we really embrace and we really believe in, it's our culture. And when you get that momentum of culture, it can be a very, very powerful thing. So I've probably avoided your question a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that's how we approach it, is we really try not to do acquisitions if it's just not going to be a great cultural fit. And typically the better cultural fits are those other privately held family businesses. And I think that's something that's really important to us. And all of our acquisitions have been privately held family businesses, so you're just hedging your bet a little bit more.
Whether it was through acquisition or an employee that was hired, as the business has gone through different changes, some people have fit for a time and then not, because the expectations changed, or the business climate changed, what was required of them changed. And so there are different reasons why people either opted to leave or were asked to. In our case, when I think about your question, I think about some of the people that I respect who left the company, who were asked to leave the company, and in a couple of cases, I can say that they fell under our value drive out fear, that they were characters who invoked fear within the organization. In fact, shortly after I started working there full-time, a situation arose where employees were coming to me with grievances and stories about one of these people, and until I had my own story, that situation could not be rectified. But once I did, it was rectified, and the person was asked to leave because it banked right up against one of our values. And so we again are using these values and who we are. They reflect who we are, and what we think and how we feel, and how we want to act and how we want to treat people, and we don't want people treated like that in our company. So
one of the things that we do, and all of our employees are aware of it, that for our clients, we ask our clients during the construction project to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how well our employees met and demonstrated our values. So we list out our 6 values. We ask our employees or our clients to rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. That's just one of the questions that's on the survey. But in a way, that kind of helps us because we don't have a lot of direct, day-to-day contact every minute of the day with what our employees are doing when they're out on a project site because they're generally located right on that project site. But it's helpful for us to gain some insight as to how our clients are viewing our employees and whether or not they're meeting the expectations that we have for demonstrating, our corporate values. I think because they know that, I think that kind of helps keep them on their toes. But to maybe answer your question more generally, the other thing that we do is we really make it a point to encourage our entire, organization to distill our values in everything they do. And I think because there's a fairly strong sense of our values that's built within our culture, some of these people are actually kind of distance from the rest of the employees, and we'll find that our own employees will get on somebody if they see that they're not demonstrating the values, and they end up, choosing to leave the firm. And in some cases, we've had some people that we've had to let go. But I think in general, I think that if the values are strong enough within the company, I think the whole organization can kind of help to self-select individuals out who aren't bought in.
Thank you. I think Rob wants to follow up, and then I wanted to open it up to some of the audience participants here today to get questions addressed to the panel. So Rob, and then we'll take some questions from
So as each of you sort of responded to Dick's question, you talked about employees that might not fit the values. To tie this back into not only our overall theme, but also some of what the first panel talked about, I'm wondering about family that doesn't necessarily fit some of your family values or the business values. You can't really fire family, right? So there's, well, maybe you can. I'm one of 9 kids. I haven't fired any of my siblings yet, but I'll try it. But I'm wondering a little bit about how you navigate some of those issues when the family's in sync with the business values and how well that works, and when the family might be out of sync or a member might be out of sync with the family, and how you deal with some of those issues. I mean, that's where it really starts to get complicated. And in our work with multi-generational wealth, that's where the issues come up. It's when family gets out of sync. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about values as far as it involves your family, if you're willing.
Now you're getting really personal. You know that, don't you?
I know.
I would say that our family, I'm happy to say that right now we are getting along very, very well, and things are running very smoothly. And our family always understands and jokes about the fact that you caught us on a good day. And at any point in time, we know that is a very delicate balance, and we need to respect each other and be very careful. When your family, things are more sensitive and more charged than they are with non-family. And so it's very important for us to remember that we are equal business owners, respectfully sitting across the table from each other, and old things from when you're a kid are in the past, and you have to be very conscious that you're professionals now. So in terms of being in alignment and having, like David was talking about, having epoxy within the family related to values or any other subject that you may be working on, I would say that when things are going well, you can probably sail through conversations and navigate difficult waters pretty well. When things are not, that's when it's important. I think, at least I'm a big fan of coaches, and for me, consultants fall under the subheading of coaches. And so we worked with Dean for a long time, and we have some relationships with others as well. And I'm a big fan, and I think those are the people that you then bring in and kind of help to bring things back. And like Nan pointed out a whole bunch of times, making sure that everyone is heard. And if you need a third party in order for everyone to feel equally heard, including, like, we have a family council and with our spouses. And spouses are a whole nother dynamic that was touched on in the last panel. We choose to include them in our family councils so that they can have awareness and things like that. And that's, you know, a point just to bring up that that's sometimes where concerns or, you know, it's a spouse that's concerned about something, and perhaps unnecessarily, but give them the respect to let them be heard, and give them the respect to share information. The more information that you can share, if you feel you can, sometimes it makes a huge difference. So those would be my suggestions, to pull in some outside help.
And the family council is separate from the business board? Those
It
are
is.
separate entities?
Yes, it is. Those are separate. Yes, the business board of directors is for the business, and then we have the family council where we include our spouses, and we share information with them about the business, and we invite them to watch the all hands videos or come to the meetings, and we invite them. We feel like by allowing them to have more information, it will help calm if they do have a concern or a fear, and it gives them a place where they can bring a question and not feel exposed. You know, we have spouses who are not in business. We have an optometrist in the family, we have a video editor in the family, and we have a serial entrepreneur in the family who does understand business and does understand finance, but for the other two, maybe not so much if they've worked for other people. And so, you know, we have some dynamics that are very important because we love them. So,
Kevin, and then we'll go to Rick, and then we'll take some questions from the group.
I would 100% echo what Amy said. That third-party support person. We have done some work with Dean in the past, but prior to that, we worked with John Ward. And John was obviously very instrumental in helping us set up a lot of these things that we do today. And I think that's really important because, as Amy mentioned, you know, you do have different members of the family, different backgrounds in the family, different ages in the family. It's really, really complicated. And I think family members overall really come to respect and listen to that third-party expert, if you will, to really help articulate and keep the family focused on what's really important, which is that longevity. The other thing I would add is leadership. You know, so in this case, it would have been our grandfather and then my father today. He takes personal pride in touching base with the third-generation family members. It's easy for those who are in the business because we see them all the time. But certainly he goes out of his way as a leader to touch base with the non-family owners. And I think that really helps to create a level of harmony. It's great levels of communication. And quite frankly, it really keeps things intact. And so I think a big part of it, depending on where you are, is you got to step up and lead, and someone sort of has to be that spokesperson for the broader family.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to add. We're fortunate that we only have 4 owners, and we've been able to get along, you know, pretty well so far. We'll see, but it's been going very well. But there is a lot of emotion that goes on with family members, and I think that having a third party kind of take a look at the situation and help drive it to a solution does make a ton of sense. Yeah.
Great. So we still have some time for questions from all of you.
I have a question for you. After first quarter shrinkage in the GDP and having come out of what is hopefully the worst experience that any of us will have in business, recession, are you bullish going forward? And if so, what's the horizon? How far out are you bullish?
I'm going to repeat the question, which was, we've just come through a very difficult recession, and now going forward, are you bullish, or what do you see as the future?
I'll start. Personally, I'm cautiously optimistic. I see a lot of things going on, and particularly in Milwaukee. I mean, there's a lot of things here going on that are just terrific news. If you just, you know, look up the street, you could see 2 very large office buildings. We haven't had construction like that downtown Milwaukee in over 10 years. So that's going on. There's an opportunity for those to spur additional development downtown Milwaukee. Certainly the arena that we've talked about is going to be a great opportunity, and I agree with what John, had mentioned before, that I believe that it's going to happen here, and that in itself will spur additional development. So from a construction standpoint, I think the outlook looks very good, and I couldn't really address other business as well because I'm not as close to it, but my sense is that for at least the near future, things are getting better.
For us, at the moment, it looks like things are looking up. We've had a number of consecutive months that we're very proud of, but we're coming out of flatness for quite some time. Our industry lags behind the economy nicely, which is great on the down, and trying to scratch and claw to come back is tough. But in the meantime, we've been like busy little beavers making all kinds of continuous improvements. And we're very, very proud of that, and very, very excited for as the volume is picking up now, to see some of that. It's kind of like Dean's a sailor, so he'll get this. This is when the wind hits your sails, and it is exciting. So we're kind of, and we're crossing our fingers, but we're kind of on the cusp of hoping that the wind hits our sails for longer than just a few months, and cautiously optimistic. I'll echo Rick there, but yeah.
We're actually very optimistic. In our business, as we mentioned, they're all a little bit different. But one of the things that Hydrite's focused on over the last number of years, really over the last number of decades, has been diversification. And I think Amy mentioned it. Our largest customer only represents about 4% of our total revenues. And so we feel that's real important to try to work our way into some what we call recession-proof businesses. So we do a lot in the food industry. There's a lot going on with food right now in terms of safety, in terms of regulations and things like that. We feel pretty good about what's happening in food in terms of compliance and things like that. We do a lot with water. Very exciting what's happening in Milwaukee with the Water Council and things like that. So we feel pretty good about certainly our recession-proof businesses, as we would call them, and really sort of expanding ourselves nationally. So we're very optimistic.
I wanted to check with Dan in terms of timing. Do we have time for another question? Any last question?
In the back.
Way in the back.
You talked about imparting value to employees and so forth, et cetera. How important do you feel it is to try and impart those values to your suppliers and vendors as well? And do you do that currently?
So the question was not only imparting values to the employees, but also to your suppliers and vendors?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't mind, I'll start and try to answer that. I think in our business, it's critically important. Our people are really the face of the construction team, but our subcontractors do the bulk of the work. In particular, when we're in occupied facilities, our subcontractors are having more day contact with our owners' employees than our people are. So it's number one, it's critically important. Number two, we've been working on doing a better job of that and trying to impart those values on the subcontractors. It's more difficult. We do orientation with subs on their first day on the project, let them know what our values are and what the expectations are for them when they're working on the job. But and we're fortunate to have a lot of subcontractors that we work with on kind of a consistent basis. For those, I think we've done a pretty good job, and we're fairly much in alignment naturally with the values. But it can create issues for us, and we don't have complete control over that, and we haven't completely figured out how to make that work just right. But we've had some subcontractors that we've had to dismiss from projects because they weren't acting in a manner that was consistent with our culture and our values.
I know we're right at our time limit. Do you have a real quick response? Otherwise, I think we'll move on to the next panel. We're fine. So thank you very much, and thank you, panelists, for being with us.